Today we're going to look at the two primary jobs of a solid drummer: playing in tempo deep in the pocket and navigating a band through the song. I'm going to show you how you can unlock your inner primal groove and have bands clamoring for you to be their drummer. We're going to get into it right now. If you're new to the channel, my goal is to bring you all kinds of stuff about drumming. Playing, tips, gear, reviews. If it has to do with drumming, let's talk about it. First off, what does playing in the pocket even mean? It is being locked into tempo. For me, it is feeling the pulse of the tempo in my gut, like in my soul. It's that thing about drumming that gives me goosebumps when everything locks together. It's also that magnet that attracts other musicians to your playing. It's the glue that holds the band together. How do we do it? I can tell you how I did it. One of the best periods of development for me was working with a producer who was also an accomplished drummer. He was recording us in his studio, and I had brought my entire 39-piece drum kit, and I was constantly going for it, trying to blow everyone's minds with huge fills. Finally, one night after the session, he sat me down. It was like an intervention. He explained to me what my job was, what a good drummer does, and how to do it. And he explained playing in the pocket to me. Next, he confiscated my entire drum kit with the exception of the kick, snare, and hi-hat. Then he put a click track in my ears while we were recording, and then put a speedometer on my snare drum. I had always considered myself a solid drummer that played for the music. I marched, I played jazz. I figured I had tempo together, so this was a tough blow to my ego. But once I dried my tears and checked my ego at the door, I was ready to learn. Now let's look at the steps I took to develop playing in the pocket. First, I practice with a metronome. I do it every day. I have a 10-minute workout that I do, and I set a metronome to a tempo that is fast enough to be challenging, but also slow enough that it's almost awkward. That forces me to stay steady and not rush what I'm doing. If I can't play my rudiments fast and slow, I don't have them solid enough. Second tool for developing pocket, a speedometer. Back in the day, we had a beat bug. It was a trigger that mounted to the snare drum, had a digital readout. If that number stayed the same, it meant I was playing a steady tempo. I looked, they don't make them anymore. They make some similar devices, but they're really expensive. I wanted to find a solution that would work for everybody, and what I found was a $4 app that's available on Android and iPhone. Don't know the guy, not an ad, not an affiliate, anything like that, but it's something I found that works. There's a link to Live BPM in the description down below. There was unfortunately no free version to check out before I paid for it, so look, I took the $4 hit for you, and it actually works pretty well. It uses a microphone to detect my playing, and it seems to spit out a pretty accurate tempo. Also, if you're already playing on an electronic kit, a lot of the modules will have something like this built in. Something that'll give you a tempo, but also give you feedback to how steady your tempo is staying. Playing with a metronome is great, but a speedometer is a hugely useful tool, and that taught me more than anything. I was shocked at how much my tempo sped up and slowed down. Third thing I do to develop pocket, I play with a click track, whether I'm recording, playing a song live. I've played in bands where everybody has a click track going in their ear. So basically, whenever I'm playing drums, I have a metronome of some form going that I can lock onto. Finally, the next big thing that allowed me to focus on playing in the pocket was getting rid of a whole bunch of my drum kit. I stripped down to kick drum, snare drum, and hi-hat. This forced me to pay attention to just the beat because I didn't have anything else to do. With that speedometer on my snare drum, I basically stared at that the entire time. The other aspect that was good about getting rid of a lot of my kit was that I learned how to make each one of those three pieces more expressive. And honestly, I really didn't miss things very much. At the time all this was going on, I was recording in the studio and I was gigging. So I had to get up on stage and play shows with nothing but a kick, snare, and a hi-hat. Going through that chunk of time was a huge help in developing the drummer that I am now. So when I'm playing drums, my focus is the pulse of the tempo and what's coming up next and signaling that to the band. Now let's look at the second primary job of a good drummer, navigating songs. I signal changes to the rest of the band about what's coming up next, and I do it with fills. So let's talk about what fills are not. Fills are not an opportunity to show off my latest chops every 4 measures throughout the entire song. Less is more. No one likes being yelled at all the time. Does this mean I have to be a boring drummer now? No, it just means that I have to learn how to be a tasty drummer. I have to get strategic with it. Put fills into correct places to signal changes coming up in the song. Now let's look at what fills are. Fills are probably the most common time that many drummers are going to rush the tempo of the song. Fills are cues to the rest of the band and the listener about changes coming up in the song. Sometimes it's a big change going from a verse to a chorus. Sometimes it's subtle, an instrument entering or leaving the mix. The bigger the change, the more dramatic the impact, the more attention-grabbing of a fill I'm going to use to make sure everybody knows, hey, come on, we're going into the bridge now, come with me. The listener who doesn't know the song, that's going to build that anticipation that something's coming and they don't know exactly what. Those fills, I work out ahead of time, I practice them, I decide how I'm going to carry them out, and then I execute them as part of the song. The other type of fills that I use are really just very subtle variations in my pattern that are going to signal, hey, we're halfway through the verse, or hey, the harmonica's coming back in, you guys. When I learned to focus on the groove and simplify my playing, that was a huge turning point in my drumming career. I began to get more gigs, and I also began to get a lot more satisfaction out of the music that I was playing. Sure, a drummer needs chops, we need impressive fills to throw out there, but there's a time and a place for it. Our primary job is to lock in on the tempo and navigate a song, and when we do that well, we are rewarded well. Check out this next video as an example of playing in the pocket and using strategic fills to signal changes throughout the song. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for all things drumming, and I will see you soon.